Hey guys, how you doing? It is Thursday, June 18th, 2020, and I'm a little bit late today coming on. It's not 9:30, it's closer to 11:15, and I call this the morning check-in. So I wanted to be technical and let me turn that off. There we go. And I wanted to be technical and make sure it was still a morning check-in. Um, I'm having a great day. So here's the deal. Uh, I don't know why I just showed you that. I don't know if you can even see it in here. Let me hold this up and see if it comes up on camera. This is a sheet of notes that I have been taking on the TEDings Fixed Operations Roundtable. And now that I see that all you see is a bunch of white space there, um, full pages of notes. It's amazing stuff. It's automotive fixed operations, right? So there's a lot going on. There's Rod Overs, who's the editor of Fixed Operations magazine. Gene Girdley, he's like the tech guy, but he's a fixed operations expert as well. Used to work with Mitsubishi and TEDings there, and he's like a guy that does it all. He can write, he can edit, he can proofread, he can post edit, the whole thing. Rob Leary from BG Products got on. Now, if you have an automotive background, you know who BG is, right? BG MOA, BG 44K, BG this, BG that. And you remember as a service writer, anyone that's been a service writer, you hate those walk around exercises they would make you do, right? But that's how you sell the stuff. And that's how you generate revenue for your boss and generate your commissions and your spiffs and all those things. And so awkwardly enough, he was talking about having automated kiosks in the service drive. And that's something that, that should be a huge wake up call for people in fixed operations training and service writing and service managing, right? Do we want to have a relationship with our customers, or do we want to turn this into McDonald's in the hood, right? Where you'd rather go to the kiosk than go to the counter. That's a whole thing. I think there's going to be a little bit of especially in power sports and marine, right? Because my focus on power sports and marine, and this is an automotive thing. But let's be realistic. Automotive generally, comes out with something, and then power sports, might follow suit, and then marine might come on board a little bit later, right? And so I try to stay up to date on what automotive is doing so I can, you know, predict the trends much better in my niche, right? And so looking at this kiosk thing, I'm kind of blown away because the kiosk thing turns into more than kiosks, right? So instead of kiosks, what if it's mobile check-in? What if it's doing things from a tablet? Well, all these things, right? And then Brian got on from Paragon Honda, big dealership out in New York on the East Coast side, and he was talking about besides being a Peloton user and exercising, he was talking about the pickup and delivery system that they have out there and how they work the night shift to do scheduled maintenance on people's cars. So people go to bed, tow truck or somebody, a driver picks up their car, takes it to the dealership, gets it fully serviced, and returns it back to its parking spot before they wake up in the morning, right? And think about all the stuff that alleviates, right? Think about all the reasons you don't want to take your car to the dealership. Think about, taking a day off from work so you can take your car down and wait for it or not wait for it or get a ride back and the hassles. And here you go with a company that's being proactive that picks it up and delivers it back for you, right? And it was all about, servicing the least common denominator in dealer business, which is the service department. And it was interesting. Now this is automotive talk, but in a $5 billion industry, only 20% of that is getting back to the dealer, right? For customer retention. Because think about it, you've got Valvoline, Jiffy Lube, Big O Tires, Advanced Auto Care. You've got all of these companies that dip into that pot, right? And it's almost like it's become like, hey, go get your oil change done at Valvoline, but then if your check engine light's on, go to the dealer, right? And so the dealer's kind of struggling to get some of that back. And it's very much the same way in the power sports side. You'll see often in the forums, oh, don't go to the Steeler, don't go to the dealership, take it to my buddy John that runs, amazing street bikes, shop or whatever, right? And so we want to try and earn back the customer retention. And like I teach in the Mañana No Mas fixed operations course, that happens through relationship, and that happens through different ways to build the relationship. And then the rest of this So far, Roundtable has largely been a focus on how do you maintain that relationship? What are some technologies that help that relationship to grow? Texting, video selling, all of these things. They actually have technicians walking under cars with a tablet and camera, you know, giving people a tour of the underside of their car and saying, this is the oil, this is the oil seepage that I'm seeing. This is the brake pad wear that I'm seeing. This is the residual from the last service that was done at another facility. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to clean that up. I would recommend swapping this, and you won't need brakes until, a visit or two away. But by giving people a video tour of the underside of their vehicle, they're able to help build that relationship with customers. Think about how relational that is to power sports, right? And then they had a person get on that was talking about finance and insurance, right? And was talking about warranty rates and talking about labor rates and parts reimbursement rates and the different laws at different states and different counties and things. And that was interesting. And then there's a whole thing. There's a company called Update Promise that's local to me. It's in Chino, California. And they do a lot with automotive service technology with texting and things like that. But I'm interested to know what that carryover might be for power sports and marine. So I've reached out to that company, and we'll see if Curtis, the guy that owns that, the CEO of that, let's see if he gets back in touch to me and has any guidance in that regard, because I think that would be cool. And then the biggest Toyota dealership in the country got on and had a lot to say. That was Doug Eero. I hope I said his name right. Doug Eero. Guy looked incredibly young to have, a couple decades of experience at the manufacturer level and then running a dealership. So my goodness, if he's my age, then I'm looking pretty sad, right? But he appeared young and looked like he had his act together. It was a good speaker. So far it's been a really good roundtable. I wanted to throw that out there because I like doing the morning check-in. I do, but sometimes there's things that I need to prioritize over that, like improving myself and growing my own knowledge so I can be of better service to people in my field, in my industry when it's needed. And so this is a very real world example of you've got to invest in yourself. And I keep saying this over and over and over again, especially from the service perspective in power sports. We finally have a little bit of a resurgence happening. We finally have, kind of a talent in things as we're hunting, right? We see that our sales departments are increasing sales volume. We know that retail's up, and we're starting to see wholesale to pick up its pace. As I talk to my friends that still work at the OEMs, and I'm saying, okay, even with the layoffs, you're seeing an increase in volume, right? And the margins haven't been too bad either, right? I've got friends at dealerships tell me the margins have been easier to keep. They're not giving everything away. So we have a customer. Now, whether this is from stimulus funding, if this is from being, cooped up under the COVID situation, if this is a flash in the pan, it's a flash in the pan, but I'm not predicting that. I'm predicting that this could be the beginning of a resurgence for our industry. Will we get back to 2006 numbers? I'm not going to predict that. But what I will say is right when things appeared to be dying on the vine, we're seeing a little bit of a resurgence. And now my question is, how are we going to maintain that relationship through a fixed operations perspective and train our people at the counter to meet customers where they're at, use technologies that do a better job of communicating, and run our service departments in an efficient, informative way that helps build the relationship with the customer, increases your parts and labor margins, and reduces employee turnover inside the shop, hopefully through better paychecks, right? And so I've been promoting this message for a long, long time. And I'm going to be blunt. Dealers have been slow to adopt. Uh, I'm a little bit in shock. I thought, hey, selling Mañana no Mas training, that should be pretty easy. I've got a great track record. Every dealership that's worked with me has sustained financial growth. So this should be an easy sale. And what's happened is people have leaned back and said, well, in these uncertain times, we don't know if we're going to be open next month or not. We don't know if we have the right people to invest in. I don't know if these guys have what it takes to move to that level. And my advice is whoever you have in your now, you saw potential when you put them in place. You've lost the sight of that potential because you've become complacent, or you have allowed them to become complacent. But try to invest in them first. Don't give yourself the excuse of saying, well, I've got to replace my people, or I need a new service writer, or I really need 2 more technicians, and then I can worry about training my department up. The time to train is now. If your sales have increased, that's a blessing. Be thankful, right? But if your sales increased, that tells you you're going to see a surge. You're going to see a demand increase through your service drive. And what have you done for customer retention tools to transition your customer from a sales customer to a service customer? And if you haven't had that in place, it's not too late. We've got some technologies and we've got some communication tools that we can plug in, and we can get that customer retention model in place, train your people up, and then help them to deal with that service demand. I know that I sound salesy and preachy at this point, but I'll be honest, this is our chance. This is our time. This is our moment. And it's like, if not now, when? And if not you, who, right? This is the time. And so if you look at the Mañana No Mas fixed operations membership, you've got questions, you've got doubts, you want to have a phone call, you want to, you need to get some information for yourself, some clarity. I encourage you to hit the contact link, reach out to me, call me. I haven't hidden my phone number, 323-418-2377, 323-418-2377. I encourage you, if you've got questions, give me a shout. If fixed operations is not it, if dealers do not want to invest in their own success, well, then quite honestly, I'm going to have to find a new model, right? And so this is a shout out to both power sports and marine dealerships, especially looking at what they're doing on the automotive side and how serious they're taking this. I mean, I signed in this morning at 6:45 a.m. and there was already 510 people in the queue getting into this webinar. I mean, this is serious, big money stuff. And the sooner that dealerships realize that the hub of their dealership is fixed operations, their ongoing profitability is fixed operations. And for those of you that aren't aware of this term I keep using, fixed operations, it's the after sales part of your company. It's what happens to the customer and all of those sequential transactions after they buy the main asset, right? And so I encourage you to jump in. You got questions? Hopefully I've got answers. If I don't have answers, I'll find the answers for you. And I've got a great opportunity for your service desk and your service staff to jump into the fixed operations training, mostly online. They don't have to travel. They can do it before hours, after hours, during lunch. If you live in a state where you have to compensate them for training, great. They can do it while they're on the clock and there's not a customer at the desk, right? Online. I drip the content. I spread it out over time. There's some different assignments. There's some testing that happens. And then once your staff goes from here to here and gets to a certain level, well, then we can have the conversation about on-site consulting or doing workshops and bringing people into a common location. But my goal was to get people with a base working knowledge to increase customer retention and increase your parts and labor sales without the added expense of travel or time away from the shop. So I worked really hard to make that happen. And I put that in place before COVID broke out. So please know that that was very intentional. It was not a side effect of COVID, and that this was my plan from the get-go. And the plan is working, but it's only working for the select few that have agreed to sign on so far. And if you're missing out, that's a shame, because there is a wealth of opportunity right past this portal. So I encourage you to sign up. I know that this was a hard hit today, but man, like I said, I'm super inspired by what I'm going through on the automotive side today. And when I see how far and how fast they've taken things with the outbreak of COVID and what they've done to put customers at ease and to increase communication, I look at the power sports industry and I say, well, what are we doing? We have an increase in sales. Why aren't we bringing service up to speed to deal with this influx that's going to happen? And when we drop the ball in 2 to 3 months on this, those customers are gone. They'll be in the aftermarket. They'll be in the DIY space. Cycle Gear is going to make a ton of sales on product. And you're going to sit there and say, man, this whole thing's a necessary evil. I wish I could just sell the product. And you've missed out on the actual profit that is available through selling the product in the first place. So, sounds harsh, but hey, you know what? I see the positive side too, the silver lining around every cloud. It's not too late, and you've got the opportunity. Join in. Like I say, questions, I'm here to answer them. You want to have a consult for 30 minutes? I'll give it to you. You know, I won't charge you for it. I just want to make sure I get you motivated and get you in the right space. And here's another one. If we have a 30-minute meeting and I determine at the end of that this is not a good fit, I'm not the right guy, you know, maybe you don't need communication training at your front counter. Maybe you've got a great communicator that you hired from another industry that had professional communication training. Maybe what you really need is better technical training. Maybe what you need is something completely different. Well, let's take a look at, you know, Spader Group, Garage Composites, and things like that, and see what fits you best. But, you know, sometimes you got to get that opinion from outside, right? Sometimes you're too deep in it to see it. And so if that's the case, jump on. We'll do a 30-minute call. You can set that appointment up direct through the homepage on the Mañana No Mas Academy. And, you know, we can do that 30-minute call. We'll do a needs assessment, and we'll figure out, am I the best source for you? Is someone else the best source for you? Or is it time to give up and sell the franchise? But hopefully that's not the case. And we will talk to you very, very soon. All right. I say it all the time and it sounds corny. I do this because I love you guys. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.